So, hello, welcome back to another Marble Law podcast. Over the past few months, we've been giving you examples of certain types of law, whether it be the IP law on one of our last podcasts, or the famous Talata, or a divorce process. So we thought we'd do something a bit different this month. And I asked the team to give me some examples of their favourite cases for 2024. Now, bearing in mind GDPR and the SRA client confidentiality rules, you won't be getting any names or locations or anything, but just to give you an idea of some of the things that we have to deal with and how, as a team or individual solicitors, we actually get around them. And you might find some really interesting stories, particularly probably from over this end of the table. So we're going to start with Alex. So, Alex, what was your favourite case from 2024?
Favourite's probably the wrong word. Interesting is more it. It was a commercial purchase by auction. And for those who don't know, when you buy a property via auction, you essentially contract, as in agree to buy it, when you put your bid in and that bid's accepted. So the general advice is get your property looked over by a solicitor and other expert surveyor, so on, before you put your bid in. Okay. Most people don't pay attention to that advice. So we had a property developer who bought the property, came to us afterwards to complete the purchase, all agreed, had a look over the documents, had another look at the documents, had a third look at the documents, sent through the report to the client, and he immediately got on the phone and said, "Oh, there's one particular point." He said, yeah, funny this. How much of a property do you think you've actually purchased? And he used a few expletives after I explained to him that he probably bought maybe a third at best of the property he thought he was buying.
Wow.
And I kind of understand why, because the headline document showed the entire property title, but the associated document said in big red words, essentially, this is the only part of the property you're buying. And he clearly, in the nicest possible way, very sophisticated property developer, done this a lot, hadn't read his docs. And this happens all the time with auction purchases. It's amazing. Or the other one I tend to find, and may or not agree, Dan probably does, you will find estate agents who will say, oh yeah, it definitely includes this garden, that path. And when it comes to actually looking at the property title deeds and so on, the estate agent doesn't have a clue.
It's the same with covenants, isn't it? We've had the same case. It's not my favourite one, but there was one where they thought they were getting a good deal, and there was so many covenants on it. It was a really bad deal.
Yeah, that was another auction from a few years ago, actually. Very luckily, he got away with it, this particular person, but he had, for his amazing development property, we spelled out that there was a covenant from a neighbour to use his front garden, undefined space, so they could have just covered the entire of it, they could have just driven across it, the way the covenant was worded. And he thought this was going to be some eminent property change into flats, and we pointed out, no one's going to buy this. And luckily, because what you normally find with auctions is you place your deposit and you lose that deposit if you pull out of a purchase. He hadn't even put down the deposit. It was all very interesting. So he managed to wriggle out of it without any cost except our legal cost, which he paid begrudgingly, but frankly, we think we saved him at least £500,000, maybe £1 million plus. Wow. So, yeah, but in this particular instance, our client took stock, decided he still had a good purchase, and bought the part he didn't own. He's now the proud owner of a whole property, and he's doing pretty well with it. But I guess the moral to the story is we do actually have a point, and people tend to buy properties on spec. It's the single most expensive property purchase. Well, property purchase is the single most expensive purchase in your life.
On emotion as well. People, it's a knee jerk, isn't it? I mean, I know we bought our house on a knee jerk.
Don't. Listen to the experts. Listen to your surveyor. Listen to whoever you've got having a look around to the electricity, because if you have to redo the electricity, that could be tens of thousands of pounds depending on the property. Listen to your, dare I say it, your solicitor. And it's amazing how much money we can actually save you if that property is dodgy.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool. Interesting. Thank you. And what about you, Sophie, 2024?
Okay. My favourite case of the year was we had a woman come in and she wanted advice on her contractual right to her friend's dog, which I thought was really interesting. She was looking after her friend's dog after a friend had an accident. And it was for quite a substantial amount of time. It was about 6 months or something. And then her friend had recovered. Her friend had asked for the dog back and she didn't want to give it back, basically. She liked the dog quite a lot. And we basically had to establish whether a contract had been formed between them, if she had any rights or anything. And to do this, obviously, first step of contract, you have to establish if an offer's been made. And basically, simply, someone would have had to say, "Would you like my dog?"
Yeah.
Or something like that. Accepting the terms of the offer. So she would have had to say, "Yes, I'd like your dog." There must be consideration. So one party has to lose something, the other one has to make a gain. So the passing of the dog from one person to the other. The most important element is both parties must intend to create legal relationships with each other. And this is to ensure that every promise and passing comment made between family and friends, they're not held legally binding, you know. So they'd had a conversation on the phone, these two people, and there'd obviously been a miscommunication. Our woman thought she was getting the dog. The other woman had, well, just no idea what was going on, basically. So it entered a very grey area of contract law. And in the end, our client had no legal rights to the dog at all.
Oh, she had to give the dog back.
She had to give it back.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sad.
But I found that very interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. I didn't even know you did that one.
Yeah.
It's funny the amount of people that argue over dogs. We do family cases, and you know, we're there to argue about the children and contact and that, and a lot of it is, well, what about the dog?
I thought you were going to say arguing over dog contracts is similar to arguing over children.
No, well, they sometimes do. Oh no, they do. Some people have asked us, and quite recently, can we put in a and in fact, the case you did last week,
yes.
the dog is in the child arrangement order about how you either have the child or the dog.
Yeah, I've done a few of those now.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, Dan, you had a case recently about arguing about the goldfish. And I must admit, I was thinking goldfish is probably going to last for a couple of months.
Yes, that was a case. That was a financial case, actually. Yes, yeah.
It's
still
incredible
actually
what people
ongoing.
fight about. Yeah.
It's still ongoing. Strange enough.
So, what is your best case then?
Oh, I got a few best cases, but the one that I think I smirk about the most. Yes, the one
dangerous.
Yeah, it is. So it's a statutory demand, and statutory demands are very limited in time. So you've got we apply what we call the promptness test. So you have to be prompt in your replies. So you are limited to the amount of information because you get quite a lot of information. So you've got to digest large amounts of information in a small amount of time to be able to do your response. And this was a case where a builder was a statutory demand against one of his clients at the time for extra money. And we were provided with all the information, the invoices, etc., and what have you. And the interesting point was when you looked at it, it was a very difficult case to argue. Our client was at the burden of around about £26,000 at the point.
Wow.
And also then costs. Until the evening before, I noticed one smallest detail, and the smallest of details was always the best.
In the detail.
It is always in the detail because fundamentally you look at the heart of everything to advise. And the guy, the builder, had inadvertently put the invoicing numbers the wrong way round, which makes it a fraudulent invoice. So it made it obvious. Now, with this in mind, and with my smirkness, I attended court, a 30-minute hearing, and prior to the case, the barrister came up to me and said, "Oh, you do know we're going to go for costs?" I said, "Yeah, we'll just say how it goes." "Well, you're bound to settle. We'll settle for a lot less if you want to settle." And I'm thinking, does he know what I know, or does he not know what I know? Because I'm sat here, and I said, "Well, we just have to go in front of the judge." And I allowed the barrister to have reign of the hearing, as you would, until I came up to the point, the judge asked me for my points of view, and I said, "If you look closely to the invoice numbers, you'll notice that they're the wrong way round to the dates." And he moved in closely to the screen, and he said, "So what's your argument about that, counsel?" And he started on about the misrepresentation, and And all these other words were coming out, legal terminologies, about how he was unjustly enriched. And I was just batting back by saying, well, your client's the one that's going to be unjustly enriched. I said, by claiming £26,000 when he shouldn't be claiming this money.
Backdating invoices.
Backdated invoices, and it was reversed on the dates. And that small little detail. You can see this counsel next to me scrabbling as much as he could. And the glee that came over my face, and
I hope not there.
No, well, no, naturally.
Not for the judge, no.
But the judge knew that it was a win-win case, and he just immediately turned around and said, well, what's your cost then for today, Mr. Davis? So I told him my cost. To that, the counsel then turned around and said, well, they seem a bit steep. And I said, well, I wasn't the one that lost the case.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a glee that justice was done. Because had we not noticed the smallest of detail, and I mean it was the smallest of detail, small number in the top right-hand corner, we were struggling to win that case, and it would have been a shame for the person that would have been ordered.
Yeah.
So the moral of it is I think justice can be done. You are on a tight scrum. We are on a tight turnaround, especially when you start adopting the promptness test, where you're looking at 14 days, 28 days at maximum.
Wow.
You're looking for everything possible that would win your client the case on the fundamentals or legal points or factual points.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't find them. And then just the night before, just that quick glance the night before the hearing gave me a good night's sleep. And we did go off and celebrate.
I did that on a divorce case many years ago, and you're right, it's in the detail. And I had, this is not my favourite story, but this is a good one. I had all the finances, and Sophie knows I love to go through a bank statement, and I know where people are eating. I know what's their favourite restaurant, and you can't hide from the facts. You can't hide from the facts, and it was all about this person's. He basically had a new life, and he was completely denying it. And he had it was school education shop.
Yeah.
I knew which pet shop he went to. I went to know which shop he shopped at. And I was in the hotel the night before the court, because it was quite a way away. And I was flicking through Facebook, as you do, and something caught my eye, and I thought, what's that? And it turned out it was his picture on Facebook of his engagement,
right,
overseas on holiday
wow.
to this person. And so, of course, when we got into court, the barrister said, "Oh no, he's living by himself. He's struggling, this, that, and the other." And I said, "Judge, may I have a word? May I present another document?" Because I printed it off in the hotel, and I literally just slid the Facebook post onto the table, and I said, I would just like to offer my congratulations on the respondent's engagement. And again, the barrister kind of looked at his client as if to say, what the heck's that? And I just said, well, I think you'll find he does have a new life. Anyway, we did win the case, but it was literally the last night I found it.
It's amazing what people try and get away with, isn't it? Facebook especially, people will post pictures of their new diamond bracelet or something whilst going through the throes of divorce, claiming they got no money.
Yeah,
exactly.
My favourite one, and this is not actually to do with us, was many years ago. I worked for CPS, and there was a jeweller's shop having its publicity shots and videos. Just as the burglar knocked on the window, live during the day, smash, turned around, missed the big bank of cameras somehow, and put his hand in and walked off. He got sent down using some, not even CCTV footage, but some very crystal clear footage of his very, very dumb face.
Oh, interesting. And lastly, my interesting case from last year was we get a lot of divorces and people have married overseas.
Oh, yes.
So that's all very well if your marriage certificate's in English.
Yes.
But the one we did last year, the couple were married in an Arab country. I won't mention the country. And the divorce, it was an Arab country. The divorce, the marriage certificate was in Arabic. And of course, you can't send that to divorce. Well, I think I tried. I sent to the divorce unit, who promptly sent it back and said, "What's this?" So then I had to have the divorce document officially translated. I had to prove had it done by a company in London who had to be certified by the court to translate it. Then we had to have it certified by them. So then I sent it to the court. Okay, they accepted that. Then, of course, when you're doing a divorce application, you have to get a response to your application. Well, the husband, it was a marriage of convenience. They'd been married for 2 weeks on holiday. He didn't speak any English, and he wasn't on email. So again, I had to go to Facebook. I had to get permission from the court to go onto Facebook. I sent him a Facebook Messenger to say, please, can you reply to this? If I send it to you, will you respond to it and will you contest it? And he said no. Then I had to apply to the court for permission to use the Facebook Messenger message he'd sent me. It took me a year and a half. I mean, marble law, we are nothing if not persistent.
Yeah.
I eventually got it. Client got divorced about a month before she was due to get married. But it took all that time just going back and forward. So my advice to anybody who's thinking of getting married overseas, please get your marriage certificate in English, please. Not any foreign, wherever you are. But yeah, that was just constant. But it was good. We did it in the end. But it just shows how persistent we are as a team.
Yeah.
So if you would like to get some help from our dedicated, committed team here on some of these key aspects we've discussed, then please give us a call and we'll see you next month. Thank you, guys.
Cheerio,
Thank you very much.